launching new products itself is a really good marketing tactic. Like a week or two before we have it live, we'll like blast out a ton of samples. This is Brian Bianchetti of People's Choice Beef Jerky.
This is Andrew Chernlin with Chernlin Products.
This is Dan Kaplan of The Game Steward.
And you're listening
to
the E-Comm Show.
Welcome to the E-Comm Show, presented by BlueTuskr, the #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Math.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the E-Comm Show. I'm your host, Andrew Math, and today I'm joined by Brian Bianchetti of People's Choice Beef Jerky. And I am so excited for this one. Brian, you ready for a good show?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So there's several reasons why I'm excited for this one. One being this is the first time that we've done an episode twice. I'm going to be fully transparent that we did this episode and I messed up and hit the wrong button and it didn't record. And so I messed it up. So we're going to do it again. And on top of that, obviously, People's Choice is a consumable, and we have not had a consumable on the show yet, and that is a very challenging area. So I'm gonna allow Brian to reintroduce himself, and we'll kick it off from there. Right, Brian?
Perfect. That sounds good. You know, I thought you just enjoyed talking to me so much the first time that you wanted to bring it back. So I guess
you got me.
But yeah, happy to be here. Happy to chat with you, tell you a bit more about our business. So we are People's Choice Beef Jerky. We're a family business located in downtown Los Angeles, and we've been manufacturing handmade beef jerky since 1929. So my great-grandfather started the company here in our current location, and it's been passed down from generation to generation. And today we're one of the foremost makers of artisan, high-quality beef jerky.
That's awesome. So the question that obviously I kind of want to get to is consumables are a challenge, at least on direct to consumer, especially obviously through e-commerce. Like you don't get to smell it, you don't get to taste it, you don't get to go through that whole process. So like, what is that like on your end? How have you like kind of tackled that?
Yeah, you know, you really keyed in on one of the main challenges with working with, like you say, consumable food products in the e-commerce space, because you don't have the opportunity for people to try your product. You know, there's a reason why you see those sampling tables at Costco, right? Like people try a product, they find that they like it, and then they buy it. But, you know, we don't have that opportunity when selling direct to consumer. So, you know, it really comes down to other ways of demonstrating our product benefits, and that comes down to things like having really high quality photography. Really, that's just like table stakes. But there's opportunities to continue that process with video. You know, one of the things that we recently introduced is video of somebody holding our product, touching it, moving it, kind of giving a textural sense to customers to give them a sense of, you know, what it looks like in a more interactive way. And then things like product descriptions, you know, being honest and transparent with like what your product is. One of the early lessons that I learned with our product is we make a very specific style jerky. It is traditional, it's old school, it's old fashioned. So texturally, it's going to be a little bit tougher. It's going to have that chew that people who like that really love it. So, you know, in the beginning, when we were writing product descriptions, we tried to appeal to, you know, a range of people. And the problem with that is that some people who weren't expecting that texture, you know, were unhappy, didn't have a great customer experience, and, you know, complained, and then we had to deal with it on the customer service front. So to prevent those sort of issues, we sort of very clearly up front, we're clear on what that product is, what it tastes like, and what the texture of it was. And I think maybe we lost a few customers in the beginning that didn't want it, but in the long run, it was much better. So I think being very honest and transparent with like what your product is in the description of the photos is sort of the way to do it.
So beef jerky is obviously a competitive space. And as you mentioned, you know, you guys really cater more towards like, you know, kind of that old fashioned, like traditional beef jerky. As you said, it's a little bit tougher. Is that kind of how you approach your branding to differentiate you between you and your competitors? Is like, if you want like traditional beef jerky, we're your guy. And if you want like new age crap, go to them. Like, is that kind of the approach you take?
Yeah, like I think we have, a big piece of our brand is sort of our heritage, is our tradition, is our longevity, and the fact that we make everything in-house. And that's very connected to who we are as a brand. And so, we found our niche and we're very successful in our niche. And it's just a matter of communicating, what it is that we do and what makes us so special. And so that's, for us, one of the big opportunities with e-commerce is all the different, storytelling devices and vehicles that are available. And I think people really latch on to those types of stories when they shop online and they look for new brands, and especially Jerky, which lends itself really well to sort of that heritage and tradition. So yeah, for us, I think one of the biggest differentiators is our story. We've been doing this for 90 plus years, and so not many other companies can say that.
Nice. So you mentioned you have everything in-house. So I assume obviously you have your warehouse. Well, I know that you have your warehouse there because we did this already. So I know you have your warehouse there. You have obviously the manufacturing side there. What's that like, keeping that whole process in-house?
Yeah, there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to having the fulfillment capability in-house. One of the things that we've done over the years as we scaled is we've really scaled sort of strategically. Like we've added on resources as we had opportunities come up. And so that means, in the beginning, we were fulfilling orders in a tiny little, vestibule in the front of our factory. And then that got upgraded to the back, the back of the office. And then eventually we got to a place where we needed to expand to a full warehouse, and that's sort of where we're at now, where all of our order fulfillment takes place. But there's advantages to being able to do that, especially during the pandemic when some other third-party providers had a lot of problems and issues, whether it was with employees or laborers being able to get stuff out. Like we sort of controlled our own destiny by having the ability to fulfill our own orders. And there's a lot of resources available from the fulfillment and shipping and side that sort of expedites and makes that process a little easy. So right now we handle all order fulfillment for our website in-house.
Okay. So you manufacture, you handle fulfillment, you obviously are sending it out on your own, you have the whole process. Do you also farm? Where do you get the cows from?
Yeah, so we work with suppliers on the side. Back in the day, when my grandfather and great grandfather were here, they would get full animals and break those down here at the shop. But over the years, as we've gotten a little bit more specialized into Jerky, we receive sort of whole cuts of meat that are prepped for our process. So from there, we break that down, slice it, trim it, and kind of make it fit our process. But yeah, we don't do any sort of slaughter or anything like that. But we do work with a few different suppliers, mostly small ranchers, small family businesses. We like that connection. But we really source from all over the US, and everything does come from the US.
Yeah. Nice. So it's so cool that you're like generational, because I mean, newer show, we haven't had anyone that's generational, but honestly, I can probably assume that I'm not going to have anyone that's generational because of the e-commerce side is relatively new. What is your end game since it's generational? Are you planning on handing it down to hopefully I guess that would be a fourth generation?
Yeah, so fifth. So I'm fourth.
Yeah, you would be fourth, wouldn't you? So yeah.
So my sister and I are both, Sarah, are fourth generation. So the next generation would be fifth. Yeah, and so my main goal is just making it day to day. I can't be the generation to mess this up, but But yeah, so I think that is the goal. It's like our business is so tied into our identity as a family, and for me personally, what we do is so important. And the fact that we work with a tangible physical product, we're taking these inputs and we're transforming it into something new. The fact that we're a food product and we make something that we eat. It's just the whole business, the multi-generational aspect of it, the fact that it's a place that my great-grandfather and my grandfather and my dad have all been a part of, and that I am now a part of, and then hopefully can pass that on, is just really important to me. So for us, it's continuing this legacy, and I know I speak for my sister as well, is like we really see ourselves as sort of stewards of the company and the brand, and we're just here to make sure that it keeps going on and we can pass that along to the generation.
Nice. And you, so obviously you had mentioned, you guys are over 90 years. You got a few years until you hit, big 100. What are you going to do? What have you? I know you've started to think about it. What's the plan? Like just some big beef jerky bash? Like, what are you thinking about doing?
Yeah. No, 100 years.
And am I invited?
Yeah, exactly. we'll see how this recording goes. And then we're super excited. It's definitely on our radar. I mean, we still got a few years to go. But 100 years is something special and definitely something that we're proud of. And I also think from like a marketing perspective, it's a really compelling, selling point. A company that's been around for 100 years. And, historically the business has been more on the wholesale side and the B2B side and the manufacturing side. And we really haven't started to build our own brand, until the last like 8 years or so. And so, that's really the future of the company, is building out, the People's Choice Beef Jerky brand, getting our name out there and really driving a connection here in the local Los Angeles market, because believe it or not, we're still sort of like a hidden gem here in downtown LA. We do sell out of our factory and we get a decent amount of foot traffic of people throughout the years that come in and buy. So I think there's an opportunity for us to really promote that fact and possibly explore like other avenues to promote that sort of local LA history and sort of an institution of LA.
Yeah. So after we did the last show, I was telling my wife about how cool it was, and then also how frustrated I was that it didn't work, and I felt bad I had to reach back out. And one of her first questions before I told her that I messed it up was, they have a location in downtown LA, because it's not really what I would expect a beef jerky place to be. So how does the whole brick and mortar side work there?
Yeah, no, we are definitely a fish out of water down here. I think it's just the fact that we've been here for so long. Most of the meat and production in Los Angeles happens in Vernon, which is just a little south of downtown. So, we're in the fashion district. We're right off Central and Pico. So all around us is, clothing manufacturing. And so, yeah, we're definitely a fish out of water down here. But, we're in this old brick building. We have, an old hand-painted sign on the front. We really haven't changed the building itself. So people drive by all the time and they literally do a double take. We'll do a U-turn and pop in and be like, you guys sell people here? So, it's we've been here for so long. And I think our building itself is such an important piece of our business as well, and our identity. But yeah, your wife is not wrong. Like, we're definitely there's not a lot of other beef jerky companies in downtown LA.
I would assume not.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are listening but not watching this on YouTube or wherever else, he is physically in front of the entire brick building, and you can tell like it's an older building. It's pretty cool. Next time I go out in LA, I have to come see this standalone beef jerky place in downtown LA. Is fantastic. You
are absolutely welcome to stop by, get a full tour. And anyone that's in LA, like come visit us. We're right off of Pico and Central. And to give you a real sense of the meat factory, this is full.
That's awesome.
Cow head as well. So yeah, we got the full experience down here.
No, I'd do the same, but we're in my basement. So all right. So one of my favorite questions I like asking, because I know a lot of sellers who are listening to this kind of always have relatively similar questions. There's kind of like those tiers of like revenue heights that kind of become issue, right? So to me, it's like 1, 5, 10, then it's usually like 25, 50, and then like 100. Like those are the tough ones to kind of break over. I know you guys have passed 8 figures. What do you think was the thing that kind of helped you guys get to that point and finally be able to like break that? Because I find that if you're at 5 million, breaking that 10, you have to like kind of adjust your company to be able to scale it to that point. So what do you think was your trick?
Yeah, I think we haven't really thought about it in terms of like those milestones. Like for us, growth has always been pretty linear. We're also a different kind of business because we've been around for so long. That like for us, it was really a matter of like, how can we grow and how can we grow profitably? I think a lot of like new entrants, especially into the food space, whether they're like venture backed or have some sort of funding, or like growth at all cost. We sort of had a different approach. And I think this is one that maybe is more applicable to like smaller businesses, smaller startups that are trying to build a business for their family and legacy and those kinds of things. Like, one of the things my dad has always preached is like, at the end of the day, you still have to make money. You still have to be profitable. And there's, I think, opportunities to acquire customers maybe at, a not so profitable cost, as long as you get that back in the long run. But we've always tried to stay profitable. And so, that really manifests in all of our, marketing tactics where, we're not trying to make a quick buck. We're not trying to spend to hit certain growth numbers. So I think for us, it's always been trying to find value, trying to find opportunity. And if that means like, doing some of that legwork ourselves, like we're definitely open to that. So I think that would be sort of like the overall takeaway is like, you can grow at your own speed. And at the end of the day, your bottom line is what's going to be the most important.
Yeah. How large is the team in-house?
So our company, across like all different departments, production, office, and everything, we're right around a little over 40 employees. And then on the sort of the marketing team, we have myself, my sister, Sarah, who's also fourth generation, who manages a lot of the day-to-day marketing. And then we also have Cody, who does a lot of the social media and blog content. So shout out to Sarah and Cody.
Nice. Keep it up. The good work.
Yeah.
So I just lost my train of thought. Oh, so you obviously keep it in-house on the West Coast. Do you have 3PLs anywhere across the country? How are you kind of dealing with being able to ship to the other side of the country here? Yeah,
it's a really great question, and one that's like super topical for us right now, because as we've expanded, we've started to look into 3PLs to help us with order fulfillment. So one, it would be to help sort of the capacity constraints. Like we are a smaller facility, we are focused on manufacturing, and so we have the resources internally right now to be able to ship. But as that grows, like does it make sense to have somebody else do it? The second piece, and I think the one that we're more interested in, is having same and next day delivery speeds. So it's just so important for conversions and the Amazonification of shopping online, where everyone expects it super fast, and you lose out on a lot of sales because people go to the shipping, get to the shipping stage and they say, oh, it's going to take 5 days, 7 days to get to me, which in my mind is totally reasonable, but they're just expecting it faster. So we have thought, okay, should we add on a partner facility on the East Coast that could increase shipping speeds on that half of the country, and then maybe we do all the West Coast orders, and that way we'd be able to deliver faster shipping speeds. So for us, it's not just capacity, it's not just price, which are both important pieces, but it's like, are there added value that we could gain by partnering? So we're right there at that point where we're kind of making that decision and exploring options.
Yeah. And so speaking of the Amazonification of it, are you on any of the marketplaces, or are you guys solely off your own site?
We are, yeah. So we sell on our website, which is Shopify, and then we also sell on Amazon, and then we're also on Walmart.com. And so, Amazon has been, like, I would say we're one of the success stories of Amazon. We've really leveraged Amazon for growth and new customer acquisition. It comes with its own set of challenges, but I think we went into with our eyes wide open. But it's been a really great thing for our business. It has allowed us to grow, sort of outside of our own website.
Yeah. So that does explain looking into the 3PL side, because I always find sellers, I think sometimes don't realize you're almost competing with yourself, because even if your cost is the same, they're getting it to you. They're getting it to the consumer in, a day or two. So what's your shipping threshold like on your website?
So it's 85 for free shipping. It's $5 standard shipping up to 85, and anything over 85 is free standard shipping.
Okay. And if you end up going to a 3PL and you can get it to them quicker, are you thinking about tweaking that, or what's the thought there?
It's a good question. I think there's two different ways that you can approach it. You can either charge, premium for the faster shipping, or you just, incorporate it into your standard shipping, and then hopefully make up the difference in cost in, conversions. And, maybe you convert a higher percentage, more revenue, and it sort of pays for itself. So I'm not sure what the answer to that equation is for us. We are testing a local same and next day delivery with a new carrier that's just here in LA in North Orange County. And so our hypothesis with that is we're just making it the same as our standard shipping. So it's $5 for same or next day, or over 85 it's free. And we're testing to see that, will we get an increase in orders and conversions, and that ultimately will pay for itself. So we're running that right now, and I think that will really inform our decision. Okay, are we expanding? Do we want to bring on a 3PL?
That's a smart idea. That's the benefit of being in LA, is you get those cool little startups that kind of think of well, what if we just did same day around here? That's basically DoorDash, but for local stuff that's not food, although you are a food, but still, it's interesting.
So yeah, absolutely. And most of our business here is local too. So we're kind of like, we're best of both worlds. We're serving most of our customers while also having a test to be able to take to other places. So, one of the things that I think we've always been really open to, that I think is a good thing for most small business or sellers, is like just being open to test things. We're always very much open to taking advantage of opportunities. And we fail. We definitely have things that don't work out, but we're always willing to take those chances and those strategic chances to see, okay, could this improve the business? And that's like a good example of like, okay, let's see what this can do.
Yeah. Do you guys sell internationally as well?
Right now, we're just in the domestic U.S. It keeps us busy. There's plenty of market opportunity here, but we have explored, Canada, Mexico. It's a little tricky with meat and beef products, just because there's export requirements that you have to go through. So there's a slightly extra hurdle where it's kind of prevented us from exploring it. But down the road, I think looking at other opportunities, it's definitely something that's on our radar.
Yeah. So let's pivot to marketing a little bit, and let's get under the hood. What's your tech stack look like? What are you guys using?
It's a good question. So I'll pull up my my little bookmarks right here in my marketing folder, and the list is like 37 apps deep. So I'll run through it. So we do Klaviyo for email as well as SMS. They've incorporated SMS into one of their services, and I know SMS is an emerging tactic channel, and so we really see it as a part of email in terms of our flows, having that feature in there. We use Just Uno for all of our pop-ups and website messaging. We use Shogun for landing page design and building. We use Swell and Yotpo for both our reviews and our loyalty program. We use Hotjar for screen recordings. We use SEMrush for all of our SEO, and the list goes on.
Yeah. Too many people don't use something, and we're not sponsored by any of these people, by the way. But too many people I find don't use Hotjar or something similar to it, right? It's just, to me, that's a no-brainer tool. So many people create a page and be like, this looks good, let's put it up. And they'd be like, I don't understand, why isn't it converting? Shouldn't it be converting? Be like, well, let's look into what's everyone doing. And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, then how are you supposed to react to that?
It's such a good point. I mean, literally today I was going through screen recordings. Once a week I have an hour blocked on my calendar where I put headphones in, I lock in, and I just watch an hour of screen recordings and just take notes. And I'll try to focus it on specific things. So an example is we've focused very heavily in the last 6 months on content creation for our blog as a way of driving additional traffic to our website. And so we have been very successful in driving all that traffic, and now we're trying to optimize our blog for email capture, for conversions, for all of those kinds of things, for engagement. So I was literally watching people land from search on our blog and how they interacted. Where are they clicking? Where are they going? How far are they scrolling? And we always have the numbers on the back end, whether it's through all the different analytics tools, but to actually see the experience that people have is so helpful, and I wrote down 3 little insights of okay, test this, let's try that. We have to fix that. It's really a great way to find, mistakes and errors, formatting stuff, just simple things that I think as a sum, some things you can test and be like, okay, this is how much it resulted in, an increase in whatever you're looking at. But a lot of it, I think, is just a cumulative thing where you just kind of all those little changes add up for your website experience. And so it's important for us. And it's something that I literally put time on my calendar once a week to go through and watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I know sometimes, the smaller sellers, I'm like, hey, having something like that can be useful, but a really small percentage change isn't going to, make you rich overnight. But then as you kind of scale, those little tiny small tweaks, like you said, they really start to add up, and it can be several percentage points on conversion rates, which is a lot of money in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you think about rising acquisition costs, it's just expensive to get people on your site, wherever you're spending your money, right? So if you're losing sales once people get on your site, that's something that's pretty cheap to fix and will have such a huge benefit.
So where are you spending your money? Paid advertising, influencers? What's the route you guys have been taking?
Yeah, we have a pretty healthy mix across. So we're in paid social, Facebook, Instagram, and then we have SEM, and really those are kind of split. The social side is more like discovery based. Like people will be like, oh, that's cool, like a new jerky I haven't tried. We think of like SEM and Google and Bing as like more specific searches, intent-based searches, and I think jerky kind of lives in both spaces. So those would be like our two main channels, or where we spend most of our money. But then we supplement that with like we manage like an in-house influencer program, kind of gifting program, where we have a rotating list of 100, 200 influencers that we'll send out just free product. Just with sort of like a handshake deal of like, here's some free product, try it. If you like it, post it.
Yeah.
And most times that relationship will lead to good organic posts and then also good content, UGC content to then harvest and then reuse throughout our advertising. So influencer is another, I think, good piece of our business. Like I mentioned, we're doing a lot of blog content, SEO, which has been a really rewarding experience. It's been a slow burn, like I would say a 6-month plus process. But like we're starting to see a really good return on that in terms of traffic. And then testing, like I said, like as opportunities pop up, like whether it's like a podcast or an email list or whatever it might be.
So I'm just a test.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. I know my role. It's okay. I want to bounce back to that influencer thing real quick. How often do you guys release new flavors?
Good question. So just take a step back on new flavors. So launching new products itself is a really good marketing tactic. Like, obviously you launch new products to like sell and like have additional revenue streams, but like it's also a really good marketing tactic. So like I'm talking about engagement, right? Like you have a new product to take to people. Like you're not just messaging them with like a recipe or like a usage occasion, like it's a product. And so for us, like, it kind of took me a while to get there, but I realized like we needed to have a healthy sort of new product launch program because it was just the most compelling marketing message that we had. So, so I would say we try to launch like 3 to 4 flavors a year, which is like way faster than a lot of companies. And I think one of the things that makes us a little bit different is because we're a smaller company, we can be much more agile in sort of speed in which we recipe tests, we R&D, we get packaging, and then we're able to launch something on our website. So I'd say somewhere between 3 and 4 products a year is where we like to be.
So the reason I ask, and tell me if you guys are already doing this, but years ago, I was at a show and this guy was talking about his tactic of like releasing his book or something. Mm-hmm. And what he did was he got a bunch of influencers that were in his market. I can't remember. I think he was a sales guy or something. Mm-hmm. And he got a bunch of influencers together. And then what he did was the deal that he struck out with them, whatever he paid them or however that worked out. He also said, you can only release your post during this month. And that was when the book came out. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how it was a great snowball effect of like, there was just a big push of like, hey, wait, everyone's got this book that just came out. Yeah. And then it started snowballing. Have you guys ever tried? And obviously, so we started doing that with products. I was like, why can't I do that with stuff like that? So like, have you guys tried that where you just do like a big jump in like 1 week or a month or something? Yeah, totally. And I think that's a really good way, like the snowball, like sort of the effect of it. Because, again, it's like, it's a little bit harder to like measure influencer in some ways. Yeah. It is a little bit different. Like you have to sort of look at like, okay, like to your point, if you're launching in a very specific window or you're seeing like a lift, but yes. So I think to answer your question, it's definitely something that we do. So like, for example, when we launch a new flavor, like a week or 2 before we have it live, we'll like blast out a ton of samples. And especially like some of the segments that we're working in, like the keto audience, right? Like they are very vocal, very active, very, tight-knit community. And so if we can get our product into 100 influencers in that space, like, and I'm talking small influencers, like 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers, the most 50,000 followers. It just, I think people that are in that community see it and then they see it again and they see somebody else posting. And to your point, it has that sort of effect where really good groundswell, through that influencer outreach and doing a targeted window for it. Yeah. So back on the paid advertising side, if you don't mind sharing, which channel is your leader right now? It's still paid social in terms of like total volume.
Yeah, it still is. It's sort of one of those things, and we're like still looking for other ways to spend our money that might work a little bit harder for us, especially with all the challenges that are going on there. But like, in terms of like total spend, it's still paid social.
Have you tried TikTok yet?
So we're on there and we're posting like, videos and that kind of stuff. We haven't tested out the advertising side of it. We're more just trying to build a presence. But it's definitely something on our radar as it's grown. And, I think the demographics have shifted a bit with who's on TikTok. Those emerging channels, there's always opportunity there because it's just so new.
Yeah. We've done a good amount of them for advertising, excuse me. And the tracking on there is like, like sometimes you can't really, there's not really like revenue tracking or anything, but it can do pretty well, especially obviously now if you start leveraging the influencer side of that.
Yeah.
So with your apps and stuff that you're mentioning, have you guys tried any of the chatbot stuff?
We used some of the Facebook Messenger tools in the beginning. And for whatever reason, I don't know, it just didn't really work all that well for us. So it was something that we tested for a bit, and then it was one of those things that kind of fell off our radar.
So since the last time you and I spoke, and the reason I had to wait to do this one is this past week, I was at Traffic and Conversions on your side of the country. I was in San Diego. And ManyChat had kind of had a thing about they finally released the Instagram automation stuff. And before I go into this, not sponsored by ManyChat, they're not paying me to say this, but they now have the Instagram automation, and I was diving into it right before this call. And it's pretty cool, and I actually think it would be really cool for you guys because it's basically like, I agree. I did the chatbot stuff with a bunch of clients, and it just didn't work the way I wanted it to on Facebook. But the Instagram stuff, the interesting thing is like you can have it now where if someone makes a specific comment on your post, it will automatically DM them. So if you do like a contest and you just say, hey, comment below like Jerky, you can automatically DM them. And then you can also do it where if like an influencer just out of blue tags you in something, you can automatically DM them like a discount as like a thank you or something like that. It's very interesting. And I've been looking into it for someone that's in this consumable space. Yeah. And I was like, it'd probably be pretty cool for you guys to be able to leverage some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We would definitely be interested in checking that out. The engagement piece on social, I think, is one that's like, it's very time intensive, right? Like responding. But like, I think it definitely has benefit. So if there's a tool that sort of does that automatically for you, it definitely would. Yeah.
So you're the marketing guy. What's your day-to-day look like? Because you're also obviously an owner, so you still have other stuff to do. But like, what's a day like in Brian's world?
Yeah, it's a good question. Every day, it sounds a bit trite, but every day truly is differently. Because while marketing, I think, is my focus and my passion, because I think it's where our company can grow is through marketing, and that's where I like to spend my time. I ultimately get pulled into many different directions, and so that could be, like hiring, it could be human resource, it could be like sourcing and R&D. So every day is a little bit different, but I have my sister Sarah and Cody on the team, so I like to set sort of high level strategy and goals and let them run with it. So provide guidance and direction, and then get my feet wet in a few different things here and there. But yeah, I think for me it's been like a really good learning experience, is like giving control away and letting the team do what they need to do, and being able to take a step back and focus on some like larger picture stuff. So every day is truly a little different. Like an important piece of, I think, what I try to incorporate into every day, or at least every week, is learning. Like I'm constantly, I signed up for every company's email resource stuff, and I'm constantly reading, constantly watching videos. Because I think it really adds up. Like you can just pick up a little insight here and there and incorporate it. It can make a pretty big impact. So I really try to build in like learning and research into my day-to-day.
Nice. So you have a big team, and you obviously have a lot on your plate. Do you guys outsource anything at all?
We do. Yeah. I mean, like on the paid social side, we partner with an agency that does all the management and creative development. So, on things where, we know enough to be dangerous, but we know that we're not experts. And that's where I think there's a lot of value in working with an agency partner. because it's at the end of the day going to pay for itself when they're able to get a better return, better performance, and just do more for you. And then I think the second piece to that too is even in the early stages, like working with a consultant or a specialist on a more one-on-one basis can be really powerful. Like for example, we've been working with an SEO consultant. His name's Dan, Evolving SEO. Shout out Dan. He has brought a tremendous amount of value to our business in terms of like his recommendations and ways that he's encouraged us to optimize our website and SEO. But also like we've learned a tremendous amount, and that's something that now moving forward, like we know how to do certain things. And so as a business owner, like it's like a really powerful thing. So I think that benefit of being able to learn from an expert and then be able to take those skills on is very powerful as well.
Yeah, freelancers, VAs, anything like that?
Not a little bit less. Like we do some freelance like design work and creative work, but no, most of their stuff is always all in house.
Nice. That's good to hear. Usually that's not the case.
Yeah.
So what's gonna take you guys to like that next step? What are you guys thinking about? Obviously, expanding the product line is clear. Have you thought about? I guess you wouldn't really acquire competitors, but what do you think is going to help you guys get to like that next level?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So we like from a jerky standpoint and production standpoint, like it's a very good problem to have. Like we're really at our capacity of the amount of jerky that we can make, which we're so lucky to be at that place. And so for us now, it's really looking at like revenue streams outside of our core products, portfolio of jerky. And so we've been exploring a few other options. Maybe getting into like more like merch. Also looking into doing like do-it-yourself jerky products. So whether that's like jerky seasoning or jerky kits, there's like a lot of content opportunity around that. So for us, it's just exploring, I think, product segments, target audiences, and different areas that are tangential related to jerky that we have relevance and authority in, but are sort of outside of where our core product mix is. So yeah, I think that's looking out kind of growing in different ways.
Nice. All right. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I've already taken up twice as much as I should have. So this is that stereotypical time where I let you kind of tell everyone where they can find out more about you, more about People's Choice, and feel free to take as much time as you want because you deserve it. This is sponsored by you now.
Amazing. Well, thank you for having me. Truly, it's been a pleasure speaking with you both times. So I think the third time will be so like some of the things that we've talked about, the best way to find us is peopleschoicebeefjerky.com. And if you're here local in Southern California, Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego, we are in downtown LA and we sell from our factory. So come by, say hello. We'll let you peek into the production facility and see what we do. But yeah, peopleschoicebeefjerky.com.
Nice. Do you give tours?
We do on occasion.
Cool.
Right here, like the window, looking out right here is on the production floor. So, when you come down here, you'll smell the jerky. It smells fantastic. And so you really get a sense of our experience and what we got going on here.
I'll definitely have to do that when I come by.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, of course, obviously, Brian, really appreciated having you on the show. Everyone who tuned in, I've obviously really appreciated having you guys listen. Make sure to subscribe to wherever you choose to listen to podcasts or on our YouTube, or just head over to ecommshow.com to learn more. But until next time, keep on selling, and we'll see you guys next episode. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the E-Comm Show. Head over to ecomshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The E-Comm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the E-Comm Show.